Greetings, Twihards. Well, time to look at the second film in the Twilight series, The Twilight Saga, New Moon. On her 18th birthday, Bella Swan awakens from a dream where she is an old woman and Edward Cullen, her immortal vampire boyfriend, is forever young. Despite Bella's lack of enthusiasm, Edward's family hosts a birthday reception for her at their residence. While unwrapping a gift, she receives a paper cut. Edward's foster brother Jasper is overwhelmed by the scent of Bella's blood and attempts to attack her but is restrained. Believing that he and his family are putting Bella's life in danger, Edward ends their relationship and the Cullens leave Forks. Bella is left severely depressed and isolated for months. Her concerned father, Charlie, decides to send Bella to live with her mother in Jacksonville, Florida. Bella refuses and promises to spend more time with her school friends. She and Jessica see a movie. Bella approaches some rough-looking bikers outside the theater, much to Jessica's dismay. The dangerous encounter reminds Bella of a previous near assault where Edward rescued her. She imagines seeing and hearing Edward and realizes the thrill-seeking activities can evoke his image. Bella's quilly friend Jacob Black helps eases her pain by engaging her in various activities. Jacob mentions how many of his tribal friends follow and obey Sam, another Quileute. While attending a movie with Bella and Mike, Jacob abruptly leaves after becoming inexplicably upset and suffering a burning fever. Bella drives to Jacob's home after he avoids seeing her. Jacob has cut his long hair and now has the same Quileute tattoo on his upper right arm as Sam and other tribe members. He tells Bella to stay away from him. When Bella hikes to the meadow that she and Edward often visited, she is confronted by Victoria's vampire companion Laurent. As he is about to kill her, a wolf pack appears and attacks him. Bella eventually discovers that Jacob and the other tribe members are shapeshifters who could change into giant wolves. Their age-old enemies are vampires, though a treaty exists between the Cullens and the tribe. Jacob's pack members are currently on alert for Victoria, the vampire seeking to avenge her mate James, who Edward killed to protect Bella. With Jacob focused on adapting to his new shape-shifting powers, Bella again finds herself alone and returns to seeking thrill-inducing activities, deliberately oblivious to Victoria's presence. Through a series of miscommunications, Edward believes that Bella has killed herself after Edward's sister Alice has a vision of Bella jumping off a seaside cliff. Distraught, Edward travels to Italy to ask the Volturi, a powerful coven that act as vampire overlords, to end his life, as he is incapable of doing so himself. When they refuse his request, he plans to force their hand by exposing himself as a vampire to humans during a large festival. Alice returns to Forks and is shocked to find that Bella is still alive. Alice and Bella travel to Italy to save Edward, arriving in time to prevent him from revealing himself as a vampire. Edward, relieved that Bella is alive, explains that he only left Forks to protect her and promises never to leave again. Edward defends Bella from Felix, one of Volturi, as the Volturi do not allow humans to confide in vampire society, but Edward is easily overpowered. As the Volturi are about to kill Edward, Bella asks that they kill her instead. Impressed by humans' willingness to sacrifice their life for a vampire, the Volturi determine that Bella, who knows that vampires exist, must either be killed or be transformed into a vampire. Alice shares her vision of Bella as a vampire with Aro, a Volturi elder able to read thoughts through touch. Aro decides to let them go after extracting a promise that Bella will be turned eventually. After returning to Forks, Bella asks the Cullens to vote on her becoming a vampire. Only Edward and Rosalie vote no. Jacob reminds Edward that the years-old treaty with Quileute will be broken if any Cullen bites a human. Bella tells Jacob that it is her choice. Edward tells Bella he will change her into a vampire if Bella marries him. Aww. And now into the production of this movie, beginning with the development. Excuse me. In early November 2008, Summon Entertainment announced that they had obtained the rights to the remaining books in Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. On November 22, 2008, one day after the theatrical release of Twilight, Summon confirmed that they would be working on New Moon. I don't think any other author has had a more positive experience with the makers of a movie adaptation than I have had with Summon Entertainment, said Meyer. In early December 2008, it was announced that Twilight director Catherine Hardwicke would not be returning to direct the sequel. Hardwicke cited time restrictions as the reason behind her leaving the project. On December 13th, 2008, it was announced that Chris Weitz, director of The Golden Compass and co-director of About a Boy, had been hired to direct New Moon. Weitz released a statement shortly after the announcement, assuring Twilight fans that he would, quote, protect on their behalf the characters, the themes, and the story they love. He continued by saying, quote, this is not a task to be taken lightly, and I will put every effort into realizing a beautiful film. I will put every effort into realizing a beautiful film to stand alongside a beautiful book. Melissa Rosenberg had been working on adapting the novel prior to Twilight's release, and had into the draft for New Moon during Twilight's opening weekend in November 2008. I would sit down at 10 o'clock in the morning and work on the script until 6 o'clock in the evening. Rosenberg spent the months of October through June 2008 alternating between writing for the Showtime television series Dexter and writing New Moon on weekends. She and Meyer kept in touch during this 5-month period. One of the key changes the screenwriter made while adapting the book was the decision to take Edward's voice in Bella's head and make it visual. This change caused the first confrontation between the two main characters, one an apparition to be emotional. For the screenplay, the four men who Bella approaches needed to create a significant and dangerous situation, and so Rosenberg gave these men motorcycles. I added the motorcycles mainly because they became an important part of Bella's relationship with Jacob. And now on to casting. Due to major physical changes that occur in the character of Jacob Black between Twilight and New Moon, Weitz considered replacing Taylor Lautner in the sequel with an actor who could more accurately portray the new, larger Jacob Black. In an attempt to keep the role, Lautner weight trained extensively and gained approximately 30 pounds. In January 2009, Weitz and Some Entertainment announced that Lautner would continue to play the role of Jacob Black in the sequel. In an interview, fellow cast member Kristen Stewart talked about Lautner's transformation, saying, quote, he's an entirely different person physically. In late March 2009, Some Entertainment released a list of the actors who will be portraying the Wolfpack alongside Lautner. The casting for the rest of the Quileute tribe was headed by casting director Renee Haynes, who has worked on films with large Native American casts, such as Dances with Wolves and Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. A casting call was also held in Vancouver in February 2009, specifically asking for any First Nation/Aboriginal actors and actresses between the ages of 15 and 25. And now on to filming. Pre-production for New Moon began in December 2008. Filming was scheduled to begin on March 23, 2009 in Vancouver, but began a few days early. Weitz envisioned a warm color palette for the sequel, contrary to the first film in the series, whose blue tones were prevalent. His attention resulted in golden tones, a change that was inspired by Italian paintings, and ultimately served as the basis for the crew's collaborative work. The approach also included the use of specific colors at certain points in the movie. For example, although Jacob's house is red, the red color does not dominate until the climax of the movie. The director knew that, quote, the square becomes a flood of red. That's how conscious we were of every visual aspect. The use of film, rather than digital cameras, added to the old-fashioned nature of the production. Two main Panavision cameras, a high-speed Arri 435 camera capable of shooting at 150 frames per second, a Steadicam, and VistaVision cameras for visual effects shots were among the equipment used to bring the book to the big screen. As with the use of specific colors, the different cameras and shooting setups would help serve the story points. When Bella was with Edward, the camera was moved on a dolly in a very rigid straight line to reflect how their relationship was perfect. When Bella is with Jacob, the Steadicam provided a fluid and organic style. And when she is with her schoolmates, a slangy visual language was reflected by a handheld. Once the film went into production, the decision to shoot in Vancouver rather than in Portland came after a debate on how to match the locations that were introduced in the first film. One member involved in the decision process pointed out that Vancouver had been scouted as a potential setting for Twilight, and it was only because the US dollar had, at the time, dropped below the Canadian dollar that Oregon drew Twilight principal photography to Portland and surrounding areas. Vancouver was chosen because it allowed a higher production value, while the surrounding areas contained beautiful forests and great weather. With this decision, however, came the issue of reconstructing key sets that were used in the first film. For the exterior of Forks High School, crew members were able to find a parking lot, while the school steps seemed to be filmed with green screen backing to match those that were originally presented in Twilight. David Thompson's Secondary High School would then be able to serve as the interior for the high school scenes. The Cullen House was one of the major match assignments, mainly because of the Portland area location's unique design. The production team agreed upon finding a house in the Vancouver area with an interior that emulated the high ceilings, glass walls, and forest surroundings of the first location. One location was positively compared to the one in Portland, and therefore Weitz and the production team filmed portions of the film there. In order to keep with the design of the original house, portions of the story that took place in New Moon were moved to different sections of the house that were not seen before. After scouting Vancouver for a place to film scenes out of the Swan House, the decision was made to recreate the house on an empty lot with a tree line and approaching road. The production team was able to rearrange the exterior of the house to match that in the first movie. When faced with creating the interior, the team measured the house in Portland and built various pieces of the house on the lot and on a stage in Vancouver. The second film also attempted to clarify the location of Bella's room, which, as seen in the first film, seemed to be located in the front of the house, when in reality it was on the right side. Complications arose when the Portland house was repainted after Twilight's release, which took away the aging the house had come to depict in the film. When recreating the house, the production team referenced the first film on high-definition Blu-ray disc. As a director, Weitz had the pleasure of introducing and filming on new locations and sets. Of particular interest was the Quileute Reservation and Jacob's House. Using the Quileute country in Washington as a basis, the production team decided to place Jacob's House on the edges of the territory, rather than in the community, because of Jacob's attachment to the wolves. To Weitz, Jacob's House was a stepping stone into the forest world, where the reality of the werewolves is hidden. The production designer was faced with a real-world versus book world challenge when the barn they located, described in the book as a red barn, was green. Initially bordered by a green fence, the decision of painting the barn, aging it, and renovating the exterior proved to be a layout that fit well with Jacob's character. After scouting more than 12 possible locations to film scenes that would take place in Volterra, Italy, the scouting team selected the town of Montepulciano, which they believed was the best representation of Meyer's description in the book. Principal photography concluded with the scenes that were filmed in this area from May 25th through the 29th. For the face-off between the Volturi and Edward, the idea was to have a bigger bang, rather than just the paralysis of Edward. Initially, what was a huge battle with vampires being thrown everywhere turned into a one-on-one fight between Felix and Edward, after receiving a stamp of approval from Meyer. The idea quickly changed from the typical outlandish battle to portraying Edward as an average guy caught in the middle of a bad situation. For Bella, conveying the feeling of being caught in the middle of a group of vampires fighting was important as well. The scene also required special effects, stunt work, and figuring out how to portray vampires fighting at very fast speeds. And now onto the visual effects. Overseeing the visual effects department for New Moon was Susan MacLeod, who had previously worked with the Weitz during the production of The Golden Compass. MacLeod enlisted Tippett Studio to create the computer-generated wolves, while Prime Focus of Vancouver handled the effects of the vampires. To prepare for the aggressive task of making the wolves look real, Tippett artists studied wolf culture. They also were able to reflect leadership in human muscle size by adjusting certain features of the wolves, such as their fat and height. In February 2009, a group of artists were able to travel to Wolf Mountain Sanctuary outside of Los Angeles and see real wolves. The artists were able to observe the behavior of both the timber and Arctic wolves, who ran in packs of 3 to 5. The idea was to give everyone a deeper feeling of the culture that they were creating. MacLeod explained that creating the shape-shifting werewolves was not an easy task. wolf work included shooting plates, or photographic imagery into which CG creations are integrated. Since the book described the wolves as being as big as horses, full-scale aluminum and board wolf cutouts were used as a visual reference for both actors and crew members. Once the actors had a reference, the cutouts would be removed, allowing the cameras to capture the scene. In order for the CG wolves to be in sync with the live-action cameras and actors' movements, the team used match movers, a land surveying tool that recorded the shooting location's topography with reference marks. A raw 3D model Jacob's wolf was the basis for creating the others. A muscle system, which gave the appearance of muscles firing and flexing, contributed to this model. From there, the initial fur layout went to painters who were responsible for its color and groom. They also added characteristics, such as sweat hair clumping together, and applied it to the fur. They refined this look before passing it off to the lighting and technical directors. One challenge for the production team was how to convey Bella's depression once Edward departs. In the novel, these pages are filled with the names of the passing months, and in the movie, will be represented as a visual effects shot with a camera circling around Kristen Stewart. The window that was used for the original film did not quite fit what Weitz was looking for, so the production team created a bay window when recreating the Swan House. The effect was one of the 300 visual effects honed by Prime Focus, led by visual effects supervisor Eric Pasquarelli. It required matching 2 camera shots, one that shot the actress in a chair, and the other shooting the view outside the window as seen from the house built on location. Using a green screen, Prime Focus was able to enhance the changing of seasons with the computer-generated leaves and falling snow. And now finally onto the music. The score for New Moon was composed by Alexandre Desplat, while the rest of the soundtrack was chosen by music supervisor Alexander Pastavas, who also produced the Twilight soundtrack. The Twilight Saga New Moon original motion picture soundtrack was released on October 16, 2009, by Pastavas' Chop Shop label in conjunction with Atlantic Records. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, and climbed to number 1 a week later after selling 153,000 copies in its first full week of release. So overall, I think this is a pretty darn good follow-up to the first movie, and dare I say it, it's even better than the first one. So alright, I give the Twilight Saga New Moon 5 vampire fangs out of 5. And we'll tune tomorrow as we take a look at the Twilight Saga Eclipse. So, until then, see you everybody.